Good morning everyone and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Reviews. Hope everyone's doing okay. Not a lovely day today, by the way. I think it's go to the beach today, which would be great. But before I do that, I'm going to do the best songs of 1985. So obviously it's a great year for me. I was 15 years old. Probably, this was the height of my my favourite music, without a doubt. All the way through the 80s was so special to me. So I've noticed while I was getting this one together as well, it's brilliant because it's making me look back on the year. It's bringing some songs to me that I've forgotten about for years, I absolutely love, I'm revisiting now. So it's great. This is absolutely great for me. So on this year, it's obviously a good year, 1985. I've got 16 of my favourite tracks. There was a lot more, but I've had to whittle it down to 16. And it's good. There's a lot of variation on this one as well. There's a lot of melodic rock or glam or hair metal, whatever you want to call it at the time. There's some straight on metal. There's some a bit of thrash. It's good, really good this year. So without further ado, we'll go for 16, from number 16 to 1. Obviously 1 being my favourite. And yeah, this is a really good variation on here. So here we go, number 16. Maybe a bit unknown to some people. Maybe more in the melodic rock sort of category, but Sabu and Angeline from the Heartbreak album. So just a little bit of background for you. Sabu, Paul Sabu was his name. He had a band called Sabu, and he was actually son, I believe, of the Sabu who was in the films, black and white films. He was like the elephant Sabu, the elephant boy, if you remember those films. But it was a great melodic rock song. Had a bit of a different feel to it. It wasn't fully like so catchy that it was like over the top catchy. We're not talking Bon Jovi or anything like that, but it was great. It had a really cool sound to him. It was very different. So Angeline, I'm sure a lot of you guys know it is. Sabu, number 16. My number 15, from a band called, well, I'm sure you know Asia, and their song Go. It was a single off the Astra album. Astra got a bit of stick. Well, I remember when it first came out, some poor reviews saying it was like the worst album from them so far, but I really liked it. Go was a bit of a standout track. It was the first song on the probably most listenable, probably most catchy one on the album itself. But it was a great tune. It was a really great tune by Asia. So I thought that was another one that I sort of forgot about when I got this list together. It's great. It came back to me again. So Go from Asia, number 15. My number 14, Kiss, Who Wants to Be Lonely from Asylum. So yeah, as a lot of you guys know already, a bit controversial I suppose, the non-makeup era was my favourite Kiss era. It just was. I like this one. It was a ballad as such, and it was really catchy. Paul Stanley, great vocal. Yeah, I really liked it. When Kiss done a ballad or a slower song, I think they done really good songs, and this was no exception. That was my number 14. My number 13, Gary Moore, Out in the Fields. So this was a big hit, a big hit in the 80s. It's obviously, you probably know about the song anyway. It had Phil Lynott guest vocals on it. It was off the Run for Cover album, Gary Moore, and I really like this song. I thought it had a lot of power in it, brilliant guitar solo, really melodic and catchy, and it was a huge hit at the time. And I love Phil, even though, as you guys know, I'm a massive, I believe vocals are so important in rock and heavy metal. And probably both of these vocalists, Gary Moore and Phil Lynott, probably didn't have the best voices, but it just suited what they did. It really did suit what they did, and you couldn't have anyone else singing these songs. And that was a great song, Out in the Fields, my number 13. My number 12, Wasp and Wild Child. Yeah, this is a great song as well. I love The Last Command. The production, I think, wasn't quite as good as even the debut album, but it was a bit muddy at times. But I love Wild Child. The video was fantastic. If you will remember, it was in the desert, and they was playing like on these rocks in the desert. It was so cool. Blackie Lawless on his on a motorbike. You know what I mean? It was so cool. A little bit of Mad Max thrown in, I suppose, to the video, but what a brilliant song. I've just started listening to Wasp again, you know, after all these years. I sort of forgot about them a little. I've got hold of their discography again. I'm starting to listen to it a lot more. So love Wild Child. There was a few on here I could have chose, but that was the one I went for. Number 11, Striper and Surrender, off the Soldiers Under Command album. So obviously this band take a lot of stick, as you know. People don't want to know them just basically because of what they stand for, Christianity. Look, I'm no way religious in any way, shape or form. Total atheist. Do you know what I mean? I just don't. But there's certain bands I listen to not for the message they're putting across, because their music just is just fantastic. So, you know, I mean, when I listen to Striper, I think they've just got huge hooks, huge choruses, brilliant guitar work, brilliant voice, instrument. Every person in the band is a top-notch musician, and I just think they're great, you know what I mean? And if you can get past the vocal, the lyrics, you know what I mean, they're just a fantastic album. Surrender was a bit of a deeper cut for Striper. There's a lot. Again, I nearly chose Soldiers Under the Command, the title track, but Surrender's a great track, absolutely great. My number 10, a band called Shy and Hold On to Your Love. So this is off the Brave the Storm album. I think it was their debut album. The production was a little bit poor, and you can't really hear the bass much on this album, but they were great musicians. This was a brilliant song starting off the album. Tony Mills, the singer, he died a little while ago, rest in peace. What a great singer. He could really hit some heights, just as good as anyone could at the time, and he done some great stuff with other bands as well at the time. So yeah, and I just love them. They made a change because there was a lot of American bands coming on at the scene at the time. It was a British band with as many hooks and melody as any American band, so that was a good one. My number 9, this might be a bit, I don't know, people go, oh God, I heard it too much, or it's not what they're all about, but I just love the song. I can't help what I love, and that's Motley Crue, Home Sweet Home. I just thought this was a great song on a not too brilliant album. Theatre of Pain, After Shout at the Devil was a bit, I don't know, the energy was sort of gone a little bit out of the band. I know there was a lot of problems with the band during the time, drugs and stuff, but Home Sweet Home had a great hook. I remember the video as well, and you know, the memories come flooding about when you think about the video, and it was their sort of, I suppose it was their go at a ballad, if you like, for one of the first times, and they did a brilliant job. And I don't get sick of this song. When it comes on, I love it. I'll just sing along with it every time. So my number 8, a bit less well known, so a band called Joshua and Surrender Love, off the Surrender album. So these again were another Christian band, so that might be why sometimes, you know, it took a lot for people, a lot of bands at that time. There was a lot of Christian bands around, but it took a lot for people to listen to them because of the message again. But they were great. They were in the same veins as Striper. They had so many hooks, so many melodies, catchy songs all the way through it. Brilliant guitar work from Joshua Pariah, one of the best guitarists around at the time. Vocals were brilliant, melodic, heavy rock music. Can't ask for anything more. Number 7, Dio and Sacred Heart, off the Sacred Heart album. So this was a bit of a dip in form for me for Dio. The first 2 albums were absolute classics, 2 of my favourite albums of all time. Then they released Sacred Heart. Production for me was a bit poor. The bass wasn't ramped up, sounded a bit tinny, but I couldn't stop listening to this album though when it came out. You know, it really hooked me. I was 15 years old. I probably listened to it for a few years, you know what I mean, and then I started to see some faults in it, you know, and then that's just what happens, isn't it? You're really hooked on it at the time, then it slowly just wavers a little bit. But Sacred Heart, I chose that off this. I nearly put the King of Rock and Roll on here because that's a great track, but Sacred Heart came on here because it's one of those classic Dio long songs, you know, where he really shows his voice, and excellent song. Number 6, Anthrax, Madhouse. So, you know, I nearly chose AIR off this because that was a brilliant track, but Madhouse got it. I think it's an excellent song. This is my favourite Anthrax album actually, and I think they brought out some really good ones recently as well, but this is my favourite Anthrax album. They could have ramped up the bass a bit on this album, but it was an excellent, a really good song. It's the best performance by Joey Belladonna on an album, I believe. I think his vocals are brilliant on this album. He really hits the high notes, and he didn't really use his voice to that, his capability in the next album, Among the Living. To me, this is where he shone on this album, and it was great. Madhouse is an excellent song, really heavy. Yeah, and it was their single, obviously, as you know, and a really funny video to go along with it. My number 5, Accept, Living for Tonight. I love Metalheart, the album, and this is one that took a bit of stick as well, because it really went a bit more commercial on this album. Well, I think it was the right direction for me. The production on this album didn't sound like it was out of 85. So clear. The drums and the bass sounded brilliant across this album. And this Living for Tonight, that hook and that riff, I don't know, it reminds me of like a heavy Scorpions at the time. Do you know what I mean? It was absolutely brilliant. Love Living for Tonight. One of my favourite tracks from Accept. Number 4, band I've mentioned a few times, Y&T and Hands of Time off the Down for the Count album. Now, Down for the Count is my favourite Y&T album. Absolutely loved it. I thought it was the most consistent album from all their catalogue, and when they do a ballad, like I said before, they really do a classic ballad. It is without doubt an epic song, and Hands of Time is no exception. Could have chose a lot of songs off this album, but Hands of Time just pipped it for me. Now we're getting interesting. Number 3, and Coney Hatch, She's Gone, off the Friction album. I actually left this off of my favourite albums of 1985. I noticed as I went back and looked at my 1985 album releases, I'd missed it off, and I was like, oh shit. And I love Coney Hatch. Well, saying I love Coney Hatch, I absolutely loved this album. I wasn't 100% into the albums before, and they done one a few years ago, and it didn't grab me like Friction did. So Friction is the album, full of classic songs, melodic rock, heavy rock songs. Absolutely loved it. Some of the catchiest songs I've ever heard, and She's Gone is an absolute sort of halfway in between a ballad and not. It's brilliant. If you haven't heard it, listen to it now. You won't be disappointed. My number 2, and Dokken, Unchain the Night off Under Lock and Key. So it's just weird, isn't it? Last year was a lot of bands bringing out, in 84, there's a lot of bands bringing out albums that were a bit disappointing in their catalogue. In this year, some of the best albums, and Dokken's Under Lock and Key is by far my favourite Dokken album. The production is absolutely superb. George Lynch on the guitar, his best guitar work in my opinion, and also Don Dokken's best vocal performance all the way through this. Absolutely love it. He definitely had a different voice than other people at that time. It wasn't about power, it was about restraint, and it was brilliant. Loved Don Dokken's voice, and this album just about is the best for me. Unchain the Night, what an excellent song. What a riff, what a riff. Number 1, and that's Rat, Lay It Down. So I love Rat, and this is my favourite album yet again, and the strongest album for me, Invasion of Your Privacy, or Privacy if you're in America. Absolutely love it, and this was another album that went all the way through the 80s for me. I didn't stop listening to it. Lay It Down had probably the best riff Rat I've ever written. I just love it, and it's sort of a chugging sort of song, not a fast song, not a slow song, very in between. I nearly went with What You Give Is What You Get. It's like that. They play about with each other like as my favourite Rat songs, but Lay It Down overall I think has got to top it for me right now. I think other days I'll give What You Give Is What You Get as my favourite, but at this moment in time it's got to be Lay It Down. Absolutely love the song. When it comes on I just turn it up. You can't help but turn it up. Brilliant song, and Stephen Pearcy had such a different voice again from any other vocalist at the time. It was all about how high you could sing and all that. He definitely, and Rat's one of them bands, isn't it? You put a song on, someone plays a song by Rat, it's unmistakably them because of the singer, and some great guitar work all the way through the album. You know, some brilliant guitar, a bit underrated, both of the Rat guitarists without a doubt. So that's it. That's my top 16. So I hope you liked the video. Please tell me what your favourites from 1985 are. Please tell me what you think I'm going to put on 1986. You know, give me some ideas. It might make me think, oh God, I wouldn't have thought of that, and I can put it on the list if it is one of my favourites. Or if not, I might be able to visit before I do my new list. So look, thanks again for everyone and their comments. Absolutely loving it. I might do a reaction with Sarah later. Trying to think of a good song to give her to do. But thanks for listening, everyone. Really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please press the red button, bottom right hand corner of the screen, and that would be brilliant. Thanks. See you again soon.